Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Talking About It. Well, if you're like me, we grew up watching wrestling. The Attitude Era was everything. The energy, the larger than life personas. We never thought about what goes behind the ring, how much it takes physical toll, mental toll. Today, we're going to be having a conversation with one of the amazing wrestlers that we have been privileged to see wrestle with the Nation of Wrestling, the big Texas Brawler, Chèmo. Chèmo, thank you so much for taking the time to come on today. I appreciate it.
Thank y'all for having me. Just want to say thank you to everybody, and thank y'all for supporting me in my journey of wrestling, doing this for about 4 years now. So I appreciate y'all having me on today.
Yeah, it was cool. I think the first one that the my family saw you at was a couple months ago, and they all came home and they were talking about you, and then they had like a photo of you, a signed photo. I have you back here. You signed our poster. So it was really cool. But just being able to see you guys here locally putting on these shows, it's really cool. It's kind of a throwback. Me and my husband used to go watch them at like some ballroom over here a long time ago. So it's been cool that Nation of Wrestling has been putting these on here locally because we love it. I'm rocking my Frank Stone shirt today. So shout out to Nation of Wrestling, but we'll get into that a little bit more. Chemo, I wanted to ask, you said you got into this 4 years ago, into wrestling. What was it that pulled you to it?
I guess me, like every kid, or even like teenage wise, I've always dreamed about being a wrestler, and at the time, I didn't know that my hometown, I didn't know we had one here. So, and I always loved doing the athletic stuff. So, wrestling wasn't my first, priority. I did boxing for a while after, during my senior year of high school, almost to like maybe a year after it. Um, but I guess like when a show came down to my hometown and I realized that they wrestled here in Lubbock, that's what, my thought was, hey, this might be a sign for me to actually start doing wrestling, because I didn't think there was one here in Lubbock, but now since I'm seeing it, I'm really thinking about it, why not? Why not give it a chance? I didn't expect it to go 4 years long, honestly. I thought I was gonna like just do it for maybe a year and then after that do something else. But no, I stick with it. I loved it, because of the fans and then all the places I get to travel to. So, I'm really blessed that I took that route instead of, quitting the first year and all that. So, yeah, I think it was because me being a kid, love about wrestling and just thought, maybe I should just try it, just see where it goes.
That's really cool that you had that, right? We all, when we're kids, say we want to do something, and then whenever you get into adulthood, life is kind of like kicked your ass or whatnot. So the fact that you were able to do that, I think is just a testament to you, right? And to how you think, how you set goals, how you just said, I just did it. That's hard for people to just do it. So what where do you get that from, that what, I'm just gonna try it? And like you said, you weren't expecting 4 years later to still be doing it. But what drives you, what gives you that push of, what, I'm just gonna go for it?
Honestly, I feel like that's towards my family, because again, we all grew up watching wrestling. We all never thought we were gonna do it. So it was just more like surprising that like my mom and dad, they're just surprised that one of their sons would actually take up this side side quest. And yeah, they never really thought that any of us would do it. And like even nowadays, my brothers, because I came from a family of five brothers and one sister. And so, they talk about it, like saying like, okay, like maybe we should try and all. So it's really just the motivation of my family and plus my friends. My friends, um, even ones that I have in El Paso, they motivate me to continue on. And yeah, I just wanted to just give a shout out to my family and friends, especially my parents, because without them, I probably wouldn't do it, but they always motivate me, especially when they first told me not to do it, because I've always came home from training with bumps, bruises,
Yeah.
sore the next day, and then going to work the next day. But they still believe in me and all that. So I think it's because of them mainly that I push myself to continue on.
Yeah, so that again, that's just, you having a strong family, a strong support system, um and just kind of pushing you and letting you find your path, It's just cool to see that families are like that, you know. We often hear so much about how it's the opposite, where families hold us back, or they don't believe in us, we don't believe in ourselves. And so it sounds like with your upbringing, it was like, no, you can do it, right? And you them instilling that in you, you're breaking walls, you're now, like you said, your brothers are wanting to try it, your sisters wanting to try it. So you are a catalyst for change, right? And for bringing your family this vision that they might not have had, So I think that's props to you, props to your family. You have the support. You kind of start this journey. Boxing versus wrestling, you would come home bruised up on either one. Which one do you feel like was the worst as far as physically?
Physically, I would say boxing because again, you're getting hit in the face a lot. Not like, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, yes, we have gloves on and all that, but you know, um, boxing is just, you're getting hit almost every day, focusing on cardio, staying on your feet and all that. Um, I don't know. I mean, they're both kind of the same too, because wrestling's the same thing, but except like in wrestling, if that person doesn't have boxing gloves or something like that, and you get hit by them, it's still gonna hurt because you're getting hit by bare fists. But
Right.
I think more towards wrestling. I think that's more of a more challenging one because it's not just boxing. You're only doing one thing. It's basically punching, but in wrestling, you're doing all these flip moves, picking each other up,
Yeah.
slam each other down, getting slammed. So I think wrestling is more the physical one that I can say out of those two.
Yeah, it's crazy watching you guys do that. I'm like, "Oh my god." Like, now older me is like, "Ugh, I get anxiety," like, watching you guys do the flips, or, when some of them are jumping off the ropes, I'm like, "Oh god." So, like, I watch wrestling differently now than I used to, um, which is mom mode, I guess. I'm watching, I'm like, "Oh, no." And you guys go hard, you know what I mean? It's crazy. If you're listening and you have never seen, um, wrestling, like, on the what is it? Independent, right? You guys are independent wrestlers? Is that what it's called? I
Yes,
wanna say the right
independent,
word. Yeah.
independent indies, wherever y'all want like call it.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen any of these matches with the independent wrestlers or these promotions, y'all need to tune in because you'll see wrestling like you haven't seen it in a while. I like watching it because it's more throwback to the old school, old style of wrestling. It's pretty badass what you guys do. One of your mottos is that you have to keep on fighting regardless of what the circumstances, right? Was there ever a time that you were unsure or still trying to figure things out and you had to like really make a decision that was kind of like weighing on you?
Um, yeah. I mean, so when I first was with my first company, which was Rampage Wrestling here in Lubbock, um, I believe I took a month, 2 months off because, financially, me and my family were kind of struggling. So I decided to put myself in a correctional officer, and that it takes about 2 months before you get your certificate to be a guard. Well, uh, I guess like some of the trainers there didn't understand that. So then once I came out of it and all that, you know, I wasn't really getting much bookings over there with them. So I was just kind of finding random stuff like around, the area. So like I was trying to wrestle in San Antonio. Um, I was still with Nation at the time, but I wasn't really like a Nation's roster yet. I was just there when they needed me. So at that point in time, when I was just trying to find somewhere to wrestle and all that, that was like kind of like my breaking point where I was like, you know what, maybe wrestling maybe not for me, maybe I should just, you know, maybe I should just give up and probably just, settle down and just, you know. And it sucks to hear that because, it's like you want to follow this dream so bad, but then like you have like no motivation or nowhere to go and all that. Luckily, luckily, thanks to Franks and Queens, they gave me an extension offer to be a Nation of Wrestling roster, and I just took it because I know that they're just trying to help me out and wants to see me succeed. And I always hear that from Frank and Queens. They every show
Yeah.
after every show they talk to me saying that we want you to succeed. They always tell me that you might be the outsider that's not from El Paso, but you're still part of our family. I just want to give a shout out to them too, because without them, I probably would have been done with wrestling a year ago after that.
It's so cool. Again, another shout out to Frank and Queen's Nation of Wrestling because I don't think people understand the indie circuit. Um, I think people appreciate it more now, but I still don't think that they understand that you guys are it's not like a 9 to 5 job. It's not like these contracts that these big wrestlers have. You're like putting your body on the line, you're traveling, you're doing all of these things and you're independent, so you guys are having to cover a lot of these costs. So if you haven't, y'all check out local wrestling in your area and I think some of them are streaming on like Roku. Um and just look for indie wrestling in your area. Support these wrestlers because it's not an easy thing that they do, and it's for the love of wrestling. At that time that it was kind of difficult for you and you kind of had to like reassess what you were doing. Um were you at this point talking to your family about it? Were they kind of helping you go mull everything over, or I can't believe I said mull everything over. I really am old. Sorry.
I mean, I would say the only person really was my mom, because she decided to make herself as my manager. So we have a little joke saying that I call her the momager. She doesn't do none of my
Yeah.
bookings. She doesn't do none of my bookings. She just kind of helps me with like merch sales or like try to see what else I can sell and like help me with like what kind of gear should I get and all that. But I think she was the only one that like I really talked to about it, and like even she was telling me that, like why, you put all this hard work, time and money to do this wrestling, and you have bigger goals than some of these other wrestlers because most wrestlers, you kind of have two ways you want to do this wrestling. Like you can just do it for fun, or you want to do it to be in like bigger companies, such as Ring of Honor, WWE and all that. So I was more of like I want to go big, I want to go to the bigger industry and, succeed there. And so that I guess my mom just kind of had to remind me, she had to stop being my momager and just be my mom for 1 second and tell me like,
Yeah.
hey, you need to just continue on, don't give up so easily, find some bookings that you can get, even if it's just small shows, as long as you're getting it and hopefully the pay is right. But even that, then she tells me that, it's not about really the pay, just do it for, not for yourself, but do it for like the fans that watch you every weekend. So that's really like who motivated me to continue on.
Yeah. Got to give it up to the moms, right? We may be rough on y'all, but we know what you have inside of you sometimes and just how to bring it out. Um Chemo, I know you guys have some wrestling promotions or some stuff coming up here with the Nation of Wrestling. Is there anything else that you have coming up soon?
Yes, actually tomorrow, uh, it will be a year since I wrestled in my hometown, in the 806 area. I actually have a wrestling show in Plainview, Texas, uh, at the Ole Liner Arena. Um, it's for a company called JJ's Production. I only done two of his shows, but he's a good man, and it's actually his birthday today, so give a shout out to JJ Pena. It's his birthday today. Um, but I have that show, and then after that, I'm pretty much I'm pretty much just waiting till April 25th when we do the G the G Drive Cup for Nation of Wrestling, which I'm in a tough match, but I mean, it's kind of crazy when you're once you tag up with these people and now you're wrestling them for that cup, which I'm going up against Mystican, Menace, and Nate the Great. So, I think it's gonna be a good match between us four.
Yeah, that's a big matchup there. Um that's awesome. And so you're back in your hometown and then you'll be here April 25th. Um Chemo, for anybody who might be struggling or kind of having doubts about themselves or anything like that, what would be your advice to them?
Um, I mean, I always say never give up. You know, just how I mean, like, just how I always keep that motivation with like what John Cena always says, just never give up. But you know, I would say like if anybody's having doubts about what they want to do, I would say talk about it with somebody. Don't ever just hold something in because, there's a point in time when I did that. I even with like the wrestling thing, I hold some stuff in that like I didn't know. And then once when I released it and talked about it, then, I feel like yeah, I feel, it basically put a weight off my back, you know, just to talk about it with somebody that doesn't even have to understand, but at least knows like the best advice to give you. They don't have to be a wrestling fan or anything that anything that they're doing outside of work and all that. As long as you just talk about it with somebody and you get that closure, then I think you take a whole lot of weight off of you if you just do that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the biggest thing is just letting things off. Like we don't understand how much of a difference it is to kind of let things get them off your chest. I thank you for saying that. Is there anything else, Chimo, that you would like to, or if people want to follow you, support you, how can they find you?
Yes. So, if y'all want to follow me, my Instagram is the Big Texas Brawler. Um, and I also just want to give shout outs to the Nation of Wrestling. Um, like I said, I don't. I mean, I'll try to name everybody, but because if I don't, then they'll probably be mad at me for not shouting them out. But like I said, I'm shouting out Frank's, Creans, CJ. Once like I said, I'm giving a shout out to CJ because he's the only one that's actually like been to my hometown and wrestled. And so like me and him, we had that great connection, especially when we wrestled at the return. it was my first time wrestling him, and you know, and also that was me coming back to Nation after I want to say maybe 4 months ever since I took that break from wrestling. So I give a shout out to CJ because he's been helping me out with like my matches and all that. Hershey's, giving him a shout out because that he can make me laugh. I I think out of everybody at Nations, and I hate to say this because I always say that my theme song was the best one, but I think Hershey's got me beat. He's got me beat with his theme song. So yeah,
Yeah,
that he
Hershey's got we like Hershey too. I
yeah
agree. I
yeah
yeah. No, you guys are all fantastic out there.
yeah. And then the last shout out, um, giving her a shout out because without her, I don't think I would have been with Nation. I'm gonna give a shout out to Ivy Red, because my dream was to always wrestle in El Paso because like I said, like my favorite wrestler of all time is Eddie Guerrero, hands down. And so once I got into the wrestling industry, I told myself that I want to wrestle in El Paso. That's my number one goal. Forget the championship belts right now. Forget beating somebody that's bigger in the company. I just want to wrestle in El Paso. Once I do that, I can check that off my bucket list and I can go for other goals.
Yeah.
So that was one of my goals. And thanks to her, she basically, pulled me to be with Nation. And because of her, now I've been with Nation for almost a year now. So I'm just grateful that she led me to them. And yeah,
Yeah. Ivy is amazing. We did have her on as well. And, just the nation in general, they're all fantastic, amazing people. I mean, just genuinely good people. They care about your success and putting out good products. And so just again, another shout out to the nation. But yeah, Chemo, thank you so much for taking the time out today to come on to share a little bit of your story. I think that we're just touching the surface on you. I know that you're going to be doing big things. And I'm excited to kind of just follow along and support in any way I can your journey. But thank you so much today for coming on. If anything from this conversation sticks with you all, hold on to it, use it, and take it as your first step to getting help to talk to somebody and get things off your chest. Um, as always, keep on talking about the hard things so that you can start to enjoy the good things. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
thank you so much.